So I recently did a GoPro 10 review. I followed that up with a GoPro Max review. And here I wanted to get into some of the accessories that help me get the most out of those GoPro cameras. Great, so let's jump into it. The first and most versatile mount or accessory that I think everyone should have is a mouth mount. This one's made by GoPro. Basically, it allows you to hook your GoPro straight into the mount, and then you can basically bite on the mount. Your hand's free, the GoPro will look wherever you look, and the vast majority of my footage I get using this particular mount. I've used the GoPro one, which has this little quick release plate that allows you to hook it into a quick release. Some people might like that. I've also used the standard Pro, which lets you heat it up and mold it to your teeth. It's a bit more of a comfortable grip while you're riding in your mouth. After the mouth mount, I think the next most important accessory is the Max Lens Mod. And so this is a secondary lens, a removable lens that you buy and you put on your camera instead of the lens that came with it. The lens basically allows you to get a wider angle view. It also allows you to do horizon lock. And so what that means, if you mount this GoPro in your lines, when you turn your kite and go back and forth, the camera's gonna be flipping upside down and right side up each time you turn. The horizon lock is gonna lock that horizon so that the footage that you get when you watch it afterwards is kind of always right side up. And I think that's a killer accessory for people who wanna use their GoPros with their kite line mounts. If you've tried it in the past, it's a real hassle to try to fix that in post-production. This solves all those problems and you basically have usable footage right away. Next critical accessory is a line mount to be able to put your GoPro in the lines of your kite and then fly and get footage of yourself. I did an entire video on this, which I'll put in the description down below, but basically you'll need one that either works with the GoPro 8 or 9 or the GoPro Max. I think that's a useful accessory that almost every kiter is gonna want. Next accessory that I think is super useful is the GoPro Remote. The GoPro Remote will pair with, one GoPro or two GoPros, and then you can hit record or stop recording remotely. This is particularly useful when you've got a GoPro in your lines and you want to be able to start and stop and kind of selectively record while you're out there riding. The next one after that is the mobile app. So you can use the Android or iPhone mobile app as a remote for your camera. You can actually view what the camera's viewing so that you can frame up your shot. You can also start and stop recording or change the settings. I think that's particularly useful when you have it in a line mount or when you have it on a tripod on the beach and you want to film yourself as you get close. It opens up a bunch of options, plus it's free. The next accessory is a bit more techy, and that is the SD cards. So it's these tiny little micro SD cards that you need to put inside the camera. I have actually found that SanDisk sometimes causes problems, and that Samsung, for the most part, I've had a lot of luck with. I haven't had any issues with. So I'd recommend you get the right SD card, and in my particular experience, the Samsung ones have been better. I tend to do 64 or 128 gigabytes just so I can store a bunch of footage on there. So next useful accessory, and a critical one for anyone using GoPros near the water, is the GoPro Float. So basically this float, specifically made for the GoPro 9 and 10, you pop the GoPro in, you drop this in the water, it's gonna float back to the top. You can use a leash. I think they're a little bit less practical. They tend to end up in your shot, but I would recommend you use one or the other. I've lost a couple of GoPros when I've just tried to kind of go with the camera itself. This next accessory I use quite a bit less, but I think at some point everyone will use some sort of selfie stick. I use it primarily for the GoPro Max, and I chose this one because it packs down super small. It actually fits in a little pocket on my impact vest, just that way it doesn't get in the way while I'm riding. One thing to keep in mind about these is this doesn't float on its own. Since the GoPro Max has lenses on both sides, you can't get a float for this. So what I've done is I got a floating grip like this one that has a tripod mount on the top, and you can screw the floating grip into the little selfie stick and now put your camera on top, and if you drop it, at least this part will float back up to the top and you'll be able to find your camera again. So the next one, I think they call them fingers, but the new GoPro cameras come with these little metal fingers that pop out of the bottom. That way you can hook them into a GoPro mount. The ones that come on here standard only work with GoPro mounts. They don't work with the standard tripod. And I found this aftermarket one that actually has a tripod mount built in. That way you can take any GoPro, you can swap out the fingers, and then you can quickly attach it to any kind of tripod directly. I think it makes the whole process a bit more convenient. Now we're getting into the more nitpicky stuff. The standard GoPro screws that come with it don't have a great grip And so if you're trying to tighten things down, it can be quite challenging. And so I found these Toque screws, which just have a little bit more of a hand grip for your thumb so that you can crank down and get the mount tight. Hopefully you can get it down and tight enough so that your GoPro never comes loose and you never lose it in the water. Next accessory that's useful to have on hand are replacement lenses. So this is the GoPro 10, the lens comes off. I'm pretty hard on my gear. I toss these around, I scratch them on rock. I don't want to have to go buy an entire new camera just because I scratched the lens. I think they're like 10 bucks on GoPro.com. So I usually buy and have an extra one of these lying around in case I scratch mine up. Next useful accessory is a tripod. This particular tripod, you can just screw into a selfie stick like this. I like this one because it's got a pretty wide base. So no matter what the terrain is, it can usually handle standing upright. And this is useful if you want to do some tricks and you want to film yourself, you don't have a person there to help film, this will work out in a pinch. So now we're getting into the really obscure accessories. For those of you a bit more serious about filming and getting good audio, I've actually found this Instamic, which is basically the GoPro of microphones. It's a full onboard audio recorder. It's got a magnetic clip. I think it actually has a GoPro clip so you can mount it on GoPro accessories. And I think it's a good option to get better audio when you're out in the water doing kind of more extreme things. I think in this situation where I'm really close to the camera, they're probably both pretty similar. The GoPro 10 has good audio, but I think in this next scenario where I put the camera a little bit further away, you'll see a little bit more of the difference. So here's a comparison. Decently windy conditions with the GoPro about 6-7 feet away, and what you should hear is that the GoPro picks up more background noise, the GoPro picks up more wind noise, and the Instamic stays closer to my voice. It's just louder, more crisp. And that'll be more professional audio, especially if you're out at the beach trying to record something before you go in the water. Next one is the magnetic quick mount. If you've got this much equipment and this many different mounts, you'll start to realize that switching your GoPro from one to the next takes a bunch of time. You gotta unscrew it, rescrew it, start doing that multiple times in a session. It becomes a pain in the butt. Ulanzi makes these really cool magnetic twist clips that allow you to twist, pull, put it on a new accessory, and it makes the whole process that much quicker. Next is a battery charger. If you've got a bunch of these batteries, it'll start to get annoying to charge them in the camera. You might want to charge multiple at once. There's a bunch of cheap USB-C ones on Amazon. I think those make your life easier, especially since these batteries die after about an hour, and then if you're in cold weather, they'll die in 20 to 30 minutes, maybe even 10 minutes. So it's always good to have a bunch of extra batteries and a bunch of warm batteries with you when you're out shooting. And now the last thing, basically a nice little case to put everything in. I typically throw this in my kite bag. This one will fit, all your GoPro stuff here. It's got pouches here for your lens caps, the GoPro screws. On this side, I can fit a bunch of batteries in these little holes. And this one's by PGY Tech. I went through a bunch. This one really just seems to be the best size for multiple GoPros and a handful of accessories. So there you have it. Hopefully something in there was useful for you. Those are the accessories that I've used at one time or another to get the most out of my GoPro 9, 10, GoPro Max. And hopefully that'll save you time from having to go out and try out all the different accessories and figure out what works. If it was useful, give me a thumbs up. If you've got any questions or feedback, throw them in the comments down below. And thanks for watching.